Did you know that condos in Kona gained $97,000 in equity over the last 12 months? In addition to that, the Big Island is the most investor-friendly island out of all the Hawaii Island. So let's get right into it. The Big Island is definitely very unique because it has some of the most investor-friendly guidelines out of all the Hawaii Islands. And that's typically the reason why a lot of investors from other islands like Oahu, Maui, Kauai actually end up coming back to the Big Island to do a 1031 exchange or to buy more properties over there. So with all this demand, is there still room for you and your investment property to make money? Or is this something where you're going to purchase a property and actually not gain anything? Is there too much competition that your property is just going to sit empty? So let's look into the market trends and how everything is going right now on the Big Island. So in 2018, there was a bill that's called Bill 108 that was passed. Bill 108 looks into or gives guidelines as far as where you can do short-term rental, hosted or unhosted. It gives you the most up-to-date information in today's current guidelines. I'll drop somewhere in this video the link so that you can see the guidelines and have the most up-to-date information. The things that you have to know essentially is that there are zones that are STVR friendly, which means short-term vacation rental. What that means is if you're in the correct zone, you're allowed to get a permit. You can do short-term rentals of however minimum nights that you want. You can do 1 night, 3 nights, whatever. You have to pay taxes on your income, and the state of Hawaii or the county of Hawaii has certain taxes that you have to pay. One of them is the GET tax, which is essentially a sales tax. And the other one is a TAT tax, which is a transient accommodation tax. And you have all this information in the link that I posted above. If you have a good realtor, they're able to tell you which condos or complexes are in the correct zoning, which ones can do short-term vacation rentals. And they can really help you navigate that because it's not very straightforward. There's a lot of rules and different zones that are allowed and not allowed and all that. So anyway, get a good realtor or call me. Currently, you also have some properties that are grandfathered in. What that means is they have a permit that they acquired in around 2018. In 2018, they were allowing properties that were not in a correct zone, that were doing rentals because at the time we didn't have all these rules about zoning, but they were paying their income tax. So that means they were submitting their income to the state saying, hey, I'll pay income tax on all these things. And that actually allowed them to get a non-conforming permit, which means they're grandfathered in. They can do stuff now that, their neighbors can't do. Typically, that's going to be a single family home that's not in a node or zone that can do that. Typically, if you have a short-term vacation rental permit for a property that's grandfathered in, it's going to add value to your property because, of course, that's something that other people who have a similar property to you cannot do, right? It's a business. It's a way to get income on that. So typically, you get $150,000 to $200,000 extra for the typical single-family home in Kona. If you have a condo and you purchase the condo, the HOA can actually overrule, in a way, the Bill 108. And what I mean by that is they can have association rules, so house rules for the entire complex, where they will set certain rules for the short-term vacation rental. They can completely ban it. So there's some condos that are in the correct zone, but the HOA does not allow for any type of short-term rental. And by that, I mean they have set a minimum amount of nights that you can rent out your property. That can be 30 days, that can be 7 days, that can be whatever they want. And I've seen other house rules from HOAs that are also even more strict, where they'll say you can rent it out for X amount of days per 30 days consecutively. So you really have to know these things. You have to have a realtor who knows those things before you put in an offer on certain properties. If you're finding this information very helpful and you feel like you're gaining something out of this, please subscribe. It really helps out our channel. We're trying to educate people on the Big Island, the real estate market, and what it's really like to live here. And why you should have an investment property today on the Big Island. So the new proposed bill that everybody's talking about right now is called the TAR bill. The purpose of the bill is essentially to create two different categories. You're going to have hosted rentals versus unhosted rentals. What does that mean? So hosted rental means that you live on the property. It is your permanent residence, like you live there all year long, and you host part of your property. So typically that will be a single family home where it has an attached ohana or it has a downstairs, and you rent out part of your home as a hosted rental because you are the host hosting guests into your home. That's the whole idea. Unhosted basically means that your entire property is being rented out. So that can be an entire condo, an entire house, whatever it is, where it's the entire property. In essence, the state is trying to get income on hosted rentals because currently with the current bill, what it's saying is that there's a type of loophole where they're not required to get a permit. They're supposed to give the income estimates and all that stuff and pay taxes on that, but most people aren't. So the state is trying to figure out a way to make people who are doing hosted rentals register and get a permit so that they can get taxes on that income. That's the essence of that. It's not into effect yet, but it will be pretty soon. There's a lot of amendments that are going through and pushback from the public. And the main pushback is about the little rules of what is considered an ohana, what's not considered an ohana, how one will get a permit, where they're allowed to do it. It's also, that bill, the TAR bill, is also talking about nodes now instead of zoning. And so if you have a unhosted short-term vacation rental, you have to be in the correct node and get a permit in order to do any type of Airbnb or anything like that in those nodes. It's a little bit controversial because of the wording and the type of little things that are added in there. So there's a lot of amendments that need to be done. So there's a lot of pushback from the public because from a public's perspective, hosted rentals are a great way to offset the cost, the high living costs of real estate here. So if you're buying a typical home in Hawaii, it's around 1.3 million right now in Kona. And so for the average family, that's quite a stretch, because we don't have really high paying jobs the way you would in the Silicon Valley or the Bay Area or something like that. And so the ability to be able to rent out part of your home is a great way to offset that mortgage and afford living here. So that's why there's a lot of controversy around the rules for the TAR bill. So when you're purchasing an investment property, there's definitely a lot of different financing options, and it's a huge way that is going to impact the successful rate of your rental. If you're paying cash, of course, you're getting positive cash flow almost right away. If you're having any type of loan, you have to think about and be a little bit more strategic of the type of loan, your monthly payments, like the HOA, the property taxes, and also the management type that you're going to get, if you're going to self-manage or if you're going to have a management company work with you. We're going to go through a couple of different loan types, mainly three, which are the most common ones that I see as a realtor right here in Kona. The first one is a very straightforward investor loan, which can be private lending. It can be a DSCR loan. Those loans typically do not look at your LTI, which is loan to income ratio. They look at the condo as an investment in a whole business. It's supposed to support itself, essentially. So if you're looking at a condo as a complete business, they're going to say, okay, is this business able to generate at least 70% of the cost that it costs to actually run this business? So what that means is, let's say that you have a condo and on a yearly basis, it costs you $100K to run. It needs to generate at least 70% of that in order for you to qualify for a DSCR loan. Of course, I'm not a lender, so those rules change all the time. I work with top lenders on the Big Island. I associate definitely with the best of the best, and they can explain to you all the intricacies of that. This is just my 2 cents from talking to them, just conversational level. I can't really go that much deeper into it. I have an expert for that. But you have to know these things if you're looking into an investment property and knowing what's available to you so that you can speak in an educated way with your lender. The second type of loan that you can get is typically a second home loan. So that means that you're looking for a second home. You're also allowed to short-term vacation rental it. You'll come casually and use it whenever you want to. Typically, the rate is much lower than a DSCR loan or private lending because it does look at, your finances, if you're able to afford it, and you can essentially like add more money if this property needs more money in order to cash flow positive, versus the other way, the idea is that it can completely sustain itself. The other type of loan that is very common for an investment property here is a condo hotel loan. If you have been shopping around and you've been talking to other real estate agents, you've probably heard that term. And the reason why it's so prevalent here is because a lot of properties have a lot of amenities that make a loan unable to be a second home loan. It's going to be a condo hotel loan. And it depends on each property, of course. So you have to look at each property and the features of each property. But typically, the things that make a property from a second home loan to a condo hotel loan are things like, essentially you walk in and it feels like a hotel. It's gonna have a front desk. It's gonna have staff that's there, like a concierge. It's gonna have in-house cleaning. So it has a full cleaning crew with their own facilities inside of the condo. It has elevator, it has guards, it has like a lot of things like that that make it security. It has things like that that make it feel like a hotel. You should assume when you're walking in that this is going to be a condo hotel loan if you see these amenities. The other thing that can also trigger typically a property to be a condo hotel is that you walk into the complex and you get a copy of the HOA documents and you realize, oh wow, a lot of the owners inside of this complex are using their property as an investment property. They all have permits and are registered this way. And so what that means is a lender is going to look at this complex and say, okay, it's essentially a hotel without the front desk and all these things, but everybody's using it as if it's a hotel. So therefore, we're going to give it a condo hotel loan. Big overview of the type of financing that you can get. I thought it'd be very helpful if we went into kind of a case study based on a prior client of mine, just to show you certain facts, because I'm not a property manager. I cannot give my clients an estimate of the yearly gross income that it can get. So typically we get that from a property manager, or my clients can estimate it themselves on websites such as Airbnb or whatever. For this particular condo, it's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath penthouse that is right across the ocean. There is no structure right in front. It's beautiful. The only thing about it is that it's a little bit further away from downtown than the other type of condos that you have. Location has a huge impact on income, of course, because you have to think of the tourist or your guest experience and what they can do around there, why they would stay there, will they find your property? Because if you're an hour away from downtown, certainly they will not be looking at that. So it's a $850,000 penthouse, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, ocean view. It also has an elevator, tandem parking, and of course it has all the normal stuff that your typical condo would have, like an oceanfront pool, sauna, hot tub, grilling area, all that fun stuff. Has a resident manager that lives on the property. The HOA for this particular condo is $1,178 per month. The property taxes currently are $6,500 per year. I'll also put a link to the table that talks about the property tax rates, because they will be different. If you're having a short-term vacation permit, by default, we're going to pay a certain tax rate. So you'll see the link right here that talks about the tax rate that you're getting. So we get estimates from property managers that are around $70,000. It seems a little bit low to me, but typically property managers always give numbers that they can easily achieve because they're giving you a quote for their work, right? So they want to be able to make you happy. Property managers typically have different types of packages. They'll have packages that will include, managing the bookings, managing the guests, managing the cleaners, paying for your income tax, paying for your GET tax, all that good stuff. They have other ones where they will restock your condo. So they'll give you like certain toilet paper, water bottles, shampoo, all those types of things that guests need every single time. They also have services where They will come to the property in between guests to make sure that the cleaning crew went through, that it all looks good, that kind of stuff. The other thing that I forgot to mention is that when you're doing any type of investment property on the Big Island, you do need an on-island representative. And typically that will be something that the property manager is able to provide as a service for you when you're not on island all the time. So this property, let's say that it's $70,000 per year. It will cash flow around $5,833. We're gonna deduct the HOA, which is $1,178. And then from that number, we're also going to deduct the property taxes on a monthly basis. So that comes out to $542 per month. And that's what you're left with your monthly positive cash flow. Now, we haven't done a loan, we haven't paid the property manager, we haven't paid our taxes, the GET or the TAT tax on that. For the loan rates, we're gonna assume that you're going to put down 30%. And if you're doing a DSCR loan at 7.2%, that's equal to $4,039 per month. If you're doing a second home loan at 6.63%, that's $3,812 per month. If you're doing a condo hotel, which is around 7% right now, that will be $3,959 per month. So you deduct that from the total amount that you're cash flowing, and that's what you're left with. Now, my clients are putting down a little bit more because they wanted more of a positive cash flow so that this property completely pays for itself. But this is something that you can do on your own to try to figure out, okay, how much is this property going to make? How much is it going to cost me? What type of risk level am I comfortable with? The other thing is that my clients are actually putting down a little bit more than that so that the numbers can cash flow a little bit better. But that's a private choice. Everybody can choose the risk level that they're comfortable with. So I would highly suggest that you do your own math and you figure out, the level of where you're comfortable and where you're not comfortable. The other thing is that this income is a little bit conservative, so you can play with those numbers as well, but it's always good to err on the conservative side, isn't it? And you just have to make sure that the numbers make sense to you. It's a very personal decision. And if you're a pure investor who's not going to spend any time there, then the numbers are king, right? It's the number one thing that you look at because it's a business decision. Typically, people who purchase in Hawaii, it's a dream of theirs. It's a type of destination that they've been coming to for a long time, and they've been looking to live there for a long time. So this is a way to ease into purchasing property in Hawaii, where the property will pay for itself. They own a little piece of the dream, right, of Hawaii, and they can come back to this place all the time and it's theirs. It definitely makes sense when you're looking at the numbers to purchase an investment property on the Big Island. It's just a matter of how much of it do you want it to make sense and what risk level are you comfortable with. I would love to hear about your experience purchasing an investment property, so please drop a comment, whether it's positive or negative, to let me know, how it went for you, if you have any feedback for people who are maybe looking into it. And if you have any questions about investment properties here, please don't hesitate and drop a comment and I'll definitely answer it. Also, check out my other videos where I talk about the Big Island, real estate, living here, all that good stuff. I hope you have an awesome day. Aloha.